Hey, what's happening, guys? Dan Dario here with another Options and Play video update. We have done a lot of ramp into the report trades this quarter. Definitely a strategy that I have liked as just an earnings play without as much of the earnings risk, like the catalyst risk. And what we've been doing is kind of positioning 3 to 7 days ahead of the actual earnings report, looking to see if there's a run in the stock into the earnings, and then we could either scale back risk or maybe adjust the strategy or even like close it out entirely, right? And most of those trades have leaned more on the closing out entirely, and that's because for a lot of them, they are stocks that maybe have had huge runs over the last few months and or had huge runs right into earnings, right? So it was kind of like a combination of higher expectations. Now Revolve was another one that we were looking at for that ramp into the report style trade. And what was interesting about Revolve is that this one hadn't it hadn't really moved, and yes, it was up a lot off the March low, but you can see that, I mean, year over year, this thing is still down a ton. So it was a little bit different. So basically, what I was looking at was when it got into that window, 3 to 7 days out from earnings, it was hanging in this congestion area above 16, but it was above all moving averages, right? Had a good report last quarter. E-commerce name, which has been seen a lot of great reports in that little sector, and 40% short interest. All right, so there was a few things that kind of contributed to the ramp into the report strategy, and those were them. Now the stock ended up rallying ahead of earnings, which was perfect because we were able to scale back risk, right? And whereas I was closing a lot of the other ones ahead of earnings, this one I thought was worth sticking with because a year to date it wasn't up significantly, right? I mean, if you look at year to date, it was still down from where it was in January, or right around where it was from the start of January, and year over year it was still down a significant amount. So yes, it had rallied the few days ahead of earnings, but it was still down quite a bit from its highs from last year, right? And the second thing, and maybe more importantly, was the short interest. A lot of the other names that we looked at for ramp with the report style trades, they didn't have short interest of that magnitude, and that to me was significant. Like 40% short interest is more than a little, and I thought that if the numbers were good, like they were last quarter, so you have kind of like a nice technical pattern, right? Breaking this trend. So the stock had this nice technical pattern, it was breaking a trend, um, and it was heavily shorted, right? So a good combination, and that's why risk was reduced ahead of earnings, but at the same time, I thought it made sense to actually stick with some because it wasn't up as much as other names, had a decent technical setup, and was very, very heavily shorted, right? So not all of these patterns are exactly the same, and you kind of have to approach each one on an individual basis, right? Like they're going to have different characteristics, and sometimes it makes sense to cut the entire trade loose and just lock in the money if it moves in your favor ahead of time, right? But other times it might make sense to ride with a little bit because there are situations where stocks do have big runs ahead of earnings, but also have big moves after earnings as well, right? So you really just need to evaluate each one on a kind of like individual basis, and definitely kind of factor in like all of the different elements of the trade, right? Like the short interest, the technical pattern, expectations, year-to-date gains, maybe month-to-date gains, etc. Right? So I'm not saying they're all going to work this way. Obviously, that's not the case. There's going to be ones that fail and break down, or things that don't move, right? So this is definitely this one worked well, but again, it's the strategy that we're focusing on because it's been working this quarter is like these ramp into the report style trades. So as long as they like keep moving, keep working, we're going to keep focusing on them. All right. So if you like this video and you're looking for more information on ramp into the report style trades or earnings trades, please follow up with the link in the description of the video for more information on options to play. Hope you guys have a great night and stay well, and I'll talk to you all tomorrow.